here on Cannabis Tech Talks, and we have today Mike Connor, president of ezGreen Compliance. How are you, Mike?
Great, Chuck. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. So we're out here at New West Summit, out here in San Francisco. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing here, and you were just on a panel, right?
I was. So I was on an interesting panel today around compliance in the vaping market and CBD products and what's going on there, which is interesting because I have a client that is a CBD product, but at the same time I'm here because I'm the president of a compliance software company that's HIPAA certified, point of sale that integrates with Metric, which is the biggest plant tracking program in the United States. I think they're in 16 states. So I focus on protecting patient data, but this was a really fun topic for me today, and I had some wonderful panelists to share the experience with.
There's so many different ways we could go with this as far as
right.
Compliance and getting up to speed and, records and HIPAA. And then there's,
compliance is boring.
Yeah.
Vapes are hot right now. So whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. So what's going on here? We've got our first, would you say this is kind of our first real, kind of crisis, so to speak, for the burgeoning industry and everything like that. What's your kind of take on this?
So from a media perspective, it looks like a crisis. But if you look at the data and you see, I'm not 100% accurate, but I heard in the panel today approximately 22 deaths attributed to vapes. Now, what are the ratio of those deaths attributed to vapes with products that had THC or just CBD? And is it CBD derived from cannabis or CBD derived from hemp? So there's some variables that I haven't heard the answers to in the market. And when you compare 22 deaths in the entire market compared to the amount of deaths around 60,000 a year for opioids, the amount of deaths around alcohol and tobacco, which is 400,000 and 800,000, it's almost incomparable. But there are some very powerful politicians in this country taking a stance and doing blanket bans in their regions. So it's definitely getting, scaring the industry and getting people going. And what's the backlash? So one, consumers that want or need these products don't have an avenue in their regions to get it legally.
Yeah.
So if they're addicted to these products or they want these products, they're probably going to go to the illegal market. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing is, what are the protocols for the responsible vendors that have licenses, that abide by FDA regulations, that are getting their plants from farms that are approved? Their manufacturing facilities are so for FDA regulations for consumable products is a little bit different than topicals. So there are different things out there that they've educated themselves and invested in those proper facilities. What happens to those folks? That's really what I want to know.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about this yesterday. Like, people that vape, that's their thing. That's their jam, and you don't like to be told you can't do something. Everybody's got kind of their preferred method of consumption or whatever. And I think that, this is going to be a tough pill to swallow if they just start, outright banning and things like that. People don't like when stuff is taken away from them. So
my brother-in-law in Boston, who is like a character in a movie, he's in a union, hangs out with his buds, a loud tough guy, but he is obsessed with his vape flavors.
Yeah.
And he would go hang out at the vape store and talk to others about the vape flavors that are coming out. So that's when I realized, and I saw it for myself, like, this is a lifestyle.
It is.
And they truly appreciate the flavors and the way it makes them feel, and others that they can share those conversations with. So this is going to have some major backlash. And it is immediate. He is not going to stop. He is going to the black market, in my opinion.
Wow.
So how do we protect him from doing that and ensuring that those products are safe? So there's a kind of in the industry, I want to correct. So I was corrected for my panel. So some old school, very, very respected farmers were in the room and on my panel, and they corrected one of the speakers and said, do not compare our market to the black market. We are the traditional market. So I came back to them, I said, can we agree that there's three markets? There's the licensed market, there's the traditional market, and then there is this black market where people are getting products from other countries. They're setting up little manufacturing facilities and apartments, and they're building products. Then they're buying from printing companies fake packaging, manufacturing these things and selling them in the street because that's what the kids want online.
Yeah.
So they're mirroring and mimicking products that are desirable, but there's no way to track that. And the best way that I can see to track that is to connect the consumer with the lab results of the product through a certificate of authenticity, or COA.
Right.
And there are products out there, like a friend of mine has a company in Los Angeles called Creed NC, and he has a federal patent on infusing cannabis, CBD, or THC onto a breath strip. And so that company has a QR code on every single individual product that you can click on it as a consumer, and it takes you to 2 COAs. The first COA is the percentage of the CBD, hemp CBD in the product. And the second COA is a panel that breaks down all of the tests for metals, funguses, other dangerous things that could be in the product. So when you can see that those aren't in there, that's a safe product.
And seems like a no-brainer.
And through technology, we can educate the market of folks that, as consumers, I want to know that it's a safe product because I want to take it for my body. Because someone told me online it's going to help with inflammation, it's going to help me feel better, or it's going to help with as an alternative to tobacco.
Yeah.
So you're either going to buy the product from a retail location or you're going to buy it online. So my recommendation would be is talk to the retailer or research the company and call the helpline at the online and say, where are you getting your hemp from? Show me the COA. Show me the farm FDA approval, because the best farms in the country for hemp are generated from Kentucky, Colorado, and California. So if you can reverse engineer where the product is, there's a better chance that it's going to be a safe product. And if you ask for a COA or you ask for information about the origins of the product and they don't give you an answer, then you know you're mitigating your own risk. You know it's a little bit riskier.
Yeah. So for people that want to continue to vape and they want to be educated, I mean, this makes perfect sense. I think the one area is cost, and these things are going to cost, a little bit more to do it the right way, to have those COAs. And, you have some people out there, just like with anything, they're very cost conscious, and so if they can get, it's like buying a knockoff jersey, or something like that. It looks the same, it kind of feels the same, but it's costing me 60% less. You're going to have some people out there that are going to, probably still go for whatever's cheapest, and therein, lies the problem where you could have, you don't know what's in it. You don't know if it's safe or not.
I would normally completely agree with that statement, but what I'm seeing, because I live on the East Coast, but I travel across the country to talk about compliance with different commissioners and different retailers. So what I'm seeing on the East Coast, people are getting wholesale product, vape pens. They're buying them. They're getting them for 8 to 10 illegally, crossing state lines, getting them into the East Coast, and then they're selling them from anywhere to 20 to 35. Not based on the safety, but on the brand. They're very desirable brands that people on the East Coast want, and they'll pay whatever they think they can to get it. Because there's some status and there's this culture about saying, I have the Skittles, I have the cookies, I have the Alien Lab, I have the Supreme pen. That's something that's desirable to younger people. So that's where I feel like that's like the dangerous part here. Is like, why don't we focus on finding them a way to get educated and ensure that those products are safe, and if they're not safe, then that's where I think these deaths are attributed to, along with these kids that are so young and they're all underage, the kids that are getting sick, so they're over consuming. They're in school. You can do it in school because you can't get caught blowing smoke in between classes like you could back in the 90s when I was a kid. You knew who was smoking cigarettes because they stunk and you could see it.
It's a lot harder to do it.
Exactly. Today it's so much easier.
You have a lighter and matches and some place to do it. And here you just you just need a vape.
And so they're also probably taking 60 to 90 hits a day off of a product. And so here's the future in my opinion. There's going to be a mass adoption of certificate of authenticities for products. And I just found out about this recently. There's going to be called a super COA, which will also contain the origins of the packaging. So one of the comments from one of the farmers said, hey, if you take this CBD concentrate and you put it in a vape pen, and that vape pen has derivatives from another country that's not regulated, and there's lead in there, and you light that, the lead and the terpenes can get together in there, and you're breathing that in, which is burning your lungs. So if you can see there's the COA of the actual product and ensure that you're not getting registered hardware, that could be another component that we don't see in this marketplace. And that's going to be helpful in the future because people are going to know, I want the products to be organic and I want the products from the consumption side to be lab tested. And if you can have that, then you're going to have a better comfort level to enjoy these activities.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Cannabis Tech Talks. We're going to take a quick break right now, but we wanted to give a shout out to this episode's sponsor, Agronomic IQ. Agronomic IQ is the smartest, most advanced temperature, humidity, and environmental control equipment in the world.
Remember when we had the romaine lettuce? outbreak, right? And they pulled romaine lettuce off the shelves everywhere, all across the country. If they had some way of tracking, where exactly that bad lettuce came from, then, maybe you wouldn't have to have a widespread, ban. But, just like in the lettuce, agriculture industry or whatever, it does become important to be able to kind of, work your way back and figure out where this came from. So you think self-regulation is going to be...
You just threw me a softball on the data side, so I'm going to be boring for a second. So,
teed up.
So Metric, BioTrack, MJ Freeway, Kind AgriSoft, Flourish track the plant matter, which is from when it's grown to when it's sold.
Yeah.
There is no regulations in the United States for hemp-derived CBD, which is scary.
Wow.
So
because it's bigger, right? It's a bigger
market.
Much bigger.
It's much bigger, and it's a textile market as well. So some hemp CBD is made for manufacturing, clothing, and furniture.
Sure.
And then there's this whole big craze right now to say, hey, this is going to interact with the endocannabinoid system in your body and help you reduce inflammation, help you with energy, help you with anxiety, and then we're going to use other infusions to make you feel excited, relaxed, different things. So they're cutting it with different things. So we're figuring it out. But if there was a tracking system for all these products similar to seed-to-sale tracking implemented across from a federal level across the country, then you could do that. And when we built our software tracking patients and revenue, when we integrated with Metric, we realized Metric tracks every product. There's a batch and a lot number from where it was grown. Then there's a Metric ID that when you bring it to the retail, but this bottle of water with the Metric ID in a dispensary could be one of 100. But we added serialization, so this is number 77, so we can actually individualize every single product, so you can see where a product was sold, if a product was lost, if it's not going where it was intended to go, or if it's been on the shelf so long that you need to recall because it's expired. And serialization will be the future. And when we came from pharmaceutical dispensing software, and we didn't realize that a lot of SaaS, which are free software services available to every other industry, is not available to the cannabis industry, because companies that give free software licenses for CRM, rewards programs to communicate with your customers, manage the way in which you set up your schedule for your employees, they don't want to give those free software systems to corporations with cannabis licenses, because they don't know if they have any liability. So it's really challenging to come into a space, get double taxed under 280E, and not have any of the free software solutions available to optimize your business. And so I see they're parallel industries, but as software becomes more readily available through regulations, software will be free for everybody, everything will be tracked properly, and it will be a safe experience for our parents that are going to benefit from this more than us for these products. And I want my mom to be able to feel confident to take CBD and THC together for anything that she's got going on, and not, one, be embarrassed because of society, and two, not know where it came from. Because currently I have to take products from California to bring her back to the East Coast, because I can't get them available on the East Coast for what she needs.
Yeah, it's crazy how important technology is and data is and everything in this industry, but it seems like there's a lot of hurdles and a little, for this industry that is gearing up, and it's I mean, there's a wave that's coming right now. It's an awesome time, but there are still legitimate challenges to implementation of this technology, and it's important that you guys are out here, kind of pushing it to the front.
The one comment I have on that is the industry is segregated, because you have 33 states that allow cannabis or CBD to some degree. They do not communicate because it's not federally regulated. So these regulators and policy writers that are writing laws in these states. I was at the commission hearing in Maryland 2 Thursdays ago, and I hung out with some commissioners afterwards. They're like 6 months out of law school. They were hired to write policy on cannabis, no experience, and they don't want to screw up and write a policy or recommend something that they get their name in the paper. So there's a transfer of knowledge gap across the country that if somebody like New West Summit or someone else could create a panel and allow regulators to communicate with their peers and say, hey, what was your strategy for your edible roll-up plant? How do you deal with recreational packaging? What's going on and how are you approaching the illegal vape market? These are the right questions, but there's just no way for them to communicate because they don't have federal referendum meetings where they can have these general conversations. So one of the things that I do when I talk to regulators and I hear that they're going through something that another one just dealt with, I try to make introductions so that they can have those conversations because it's easier for them to talk amongst themselves than to talk to vendors or to talk to consumers that are very passionate about the industry.
Well, some of these states, their rollouts have been so clunky.
Yes.
It makes you wonder why not model after some of the states that did it, and most would say did it pretty well. I think most people would say Colorado did it pretty well. Even Washington, right? They did pretty good. Oregon, there's some issues or whatever, but some of these states back east and everything like that, it seems like they're really trying to reinvent the wheel.
There's a conservative presence in the East Coast. However, there is such an opioid diversion crisis going on that those conservative views are getting pushed aside to do that. So there are 4 states now that I know of. There's Maryland, New York, New Jersey, and Illinois that have mandated the cannabis database be managed under HIPAA standards, which is a federal regulation to protect patients' rights. And they do that because they want medical doctors that are dealing with opioid patients to allow them to take their patient profiles, get them into the cannabis database, and give them an alternative to getting 30 days of pills. Let's try cannabis and see if it helps some of your ailments. So the problems of opioids are overcoming the bad, conservative views on cannabis, and so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But if there was a way for them to communicate, which I don't have an answer, I'm just observing, if we could find a way for regulators to freely communicate across state lines in different sectors, you would see a faster adoption and easier implementation. And when you can track the plants, you can track the patients, you can track the revenue, then you can get bank accounts because you can show the FDIC that there's no money laundering and there's no organized crime. And aside from the 2 audits they require a month, everybody can get bank accounts, which will therefore reduce the risk of license holders that are being targeted for, getting robbed because they think they're running around with bags of money.
Yeah. Do you think the ideal scenario, and who knows when we're going to get there, is legalization federally medical? Is that kind of like, and then let the states decide, on the rec side, but at least if it was legal federally, because it's pretty much indisputed that there are medical benefits, and I think that, even the most conservative, places can see that. Do you think that is kind of the most realistic scenario?
Yeah, but. I'm going to say yes, but, and there's a lot of emotional people that get mad at me for saying this.
Yeah.
I come from pharmaceutical dispensing best practices. So I see a lot of synergy in the cannabis space. And yes, the medical program is important. But people feel that recreation is going to take over.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that if you study the data of all the lobby dollars that are spent at the federal level and all of the insurance companies and companies that make money off prescribing medication, they're not going to let this go rec all the way because they would be losing billions of dollars, which they're already losing in opioids. That's one.
Follow the money.
The second thing is you can still track rec. Because every day, if you go into the United States and you buy over-the-counter products that have like Sudafed that have things in there you can make crystal meth or other things like that with, there you have to show your ID. Every state in America has a prescription drug monitoring portal that tracks all the opioid sales, but also an OTC, which is over-the-counter purchase that you don't need not a recommendation, you need prescription for, of a Sudafed is tracked. So if at the end of the day, one of us went and bought 10 Sudafeds in the state of, Maryland would know, and they would be sharing that information with the DEA or some side of a regulatory side and say, look at this person, they're acting irregular in their purchase habits. So, and that's a rec market because it's not regulated. So there's still a way to track it and allow. But the real problem that I also see, to make it even more complex, it's rich white guys are making all the money in this industry, and it doesn't reflect the lower socioeconomic zip codes that have been put in jail for this for generations. Right. So in New York, the initiative is, there's a great guy there named Axel Barnaby who works with the governor's office who's rolling this program out to try to explore how to let it go recreationally. The medical market, it was like a $40 or $50 million minimum to even apply for a license. So no female, no one of diversity won any license. So as they open up rec, they want to mandate certain like a coding system. So you were arrested for this, or you're in a lower socioeconomic zip code, you can get a manufacturer license, you can get a distribution license, you can get a retail license. But if you don't give them a transfer of knowledge of how to run it with compliance, they're going to get shut down. So there has to be a program, or in my opinion, some type of a technology training to allow anybody that participates in this space the same level of compliance to compete with big business, because big business is going to come in and eat everybody up by dropping their margins and just forcing you out, or by catching you not being compliant. You're gonna get a hit and you're gonna lose your license. So that's the other thing that makes us really. It's like three different polarizing things moving this tornado forward, and it's like, how do you address that to keep it going forward? And there have to be good standards, and then those regulators could share those standards with other states. Hey, here's how we included, here's how we did diversity, here's where we manage that. And when that social equity, they call it in California, and when they can also add that, then the industry will grow.
Yeah.
But until then, that's another thing stopping this from just going forward 110 miles an hour.
Well, it's fascinating. I feel like I could talk to you like all day about this stuff, because this is this is where it's all happening. We're at the epicenter right now of all these big changes, and of course technology coming in, and innovation, and trying to do things the right way. It's an altruistic type of industry, but at the same token, it's a business, and it's just real fascinating to see all of this kind of coming to light right now, and here at New West, educating people and informing them. So really appreciate your time here. Tell our audience, where can they find you? Where can they reach out to you? Or
So if you just go to ezgreencompliance.com, I have a blog on there. So our model is we give away all of our trade secrets from the pharma industry for protecting information. And unfortunately, nobody cares about HIPAA today. Nobody cares about GDPR. So we also spend a lot of time coming up with ways to optimize the retail experience for business owners and license holders. And we put a lot of blogs on our site. So that's something which is free information, and we love to hear from people out there. So just check out that website. And I'm really enjoying myself in the space. It's a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see where it goes next. And it's going
you bring
in the right
a lot
direction.
of knowledge, and that's what we need. We need more people in this space that are bringing knowledge from other industries, because really that's the way we're gonna move this thing forward.
Exactly. Let's not reinvent the wheel.
Anyways, hey, thanks so much, Mike. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to Cannabis and Tech Talks. And if you like this podcast, make sure you subscribe and share with your friends. And don't forget, make sure you check out our award-winning magazine. You can find it at any Barnes & Noble and on site at most of your favorite cannabis events. And don't forget to follow us on social media so you can stay in the conversation, and visit our website, cannatechtoday.com.